Hi then, welcome back to Jelly Snake Rebel. Today then, we're going to be discussing things we'd like to see in FM21. All the credits are going to be in the description for the pictures that I'm going to show. So without further ado, let's get into it then. Right then, let's take it as if we're going to do it as if it was a story sort of based role. We're going to go a different direction to how people do it. Normally they just list them straight off, but we're going to take a different approach. We're going to base it into a story and sort of get it gist of it as we go along. All right then, so I have got it scripted out in front of me on Notepad, so if you catch me looking away, that's because I'm looking at that for me script. But the way I've got it set out is that I've got it in a storyboard sort of basis, as if it was a story, and the points go through as we go through the story. Bit of a different way to do it, as opposed to people just listing it straight off, banging off all the bullets and saying that's what they want in FM21. So without further ado, let's get into it. You started into your career, you've just started, and you're immediately wanting to go out on the hunt, and you want to go scouting. Scouting's great, it's really good, but for small clubs with 1 or 2 scouts, we're going to move into this. So as you can see here, we have the assignment scout picture. It would be great if we could make this more accessible. Also, easier to prioritise who would like scouted first, and in what order, so to speak, and just generally make it a bit more user friendly in organisation and getting around this sort of screen as go. So moving on then, we find our perfect player, but it doesn't quite play that position. So we've got playing positions. A player that can play wing back in a fullback role should be able to learn to play on the wing in an attacking position faster than FM likes to think it takes. Learning a new position from, say, centre back to attacking midfielder, yes, could take effectively maybe a while, but an attacking midfielder to like a central midfielder, let's say Mazzala, it shouldn't be that much of a transition, and it should be learned relatively quickly. As in this picture, Marcus plays defensive midfielder, but tackling's at 16. It's a great stat. He's right-footed, and there's no reason whatsoever, if he was caught at an earlier age, let's say around 19, to play as a right-back. Yes, it may take a season, but there's no way that he wouldn't know how to do it. And the reasons for wanting him to do this may range from having too many players in certain positions, but you want to include them in the team. So, great, we've signed them anyhow. Now we need to set pre-season up and get these young guys training. We have the option to play for set pieces in the tactics screen. But, as number 3 says here, it would be great if we could train specifically with specialised coaches for set pieces who could then, in order, set our set piece takers according to his or her, more on this later, liking. Now that we have our training set up, things are going great. Now we have to set up the mentoring groups. In the mentoring groups, we know that players can pick up good and bad traits from these groups, but it would actually be really good to see what is going on in the groups, training, the one-to-ones, forging friendships, and the like. Maybe you've got a couple that you'd like to drop down in the comments that you might know of and that I can't think of off the top of my head, or that I forgot to put in the script. Ooh, all right then, pre-season started and the fans are ready for the new kits. Now, if we have a 2 or 3 year deal on sponsorship, it's obvious who's making the kit. It could be Kappa, it could be Adidas, Nike, it doesn't really matter. But what about the sponsor on the front of the shirt? Who's going to adorn that space? So moving into sponsorship, as a manager, just like LMA manager back in the day, I feel it would be a great addition to give us a selection of sponsors. Not all of us want a betting site on the shirt as a sponsor or whatever. And further to this, the stadium could be sold to increase revenue to stop a club going bust, and as an example could be renamed Arsenal, say, moving from Highbury to the Emirates. There's an example there for you. Being able to choose the sponsors would be a nice touch to a successful campaign as well. Right, we've got the training, we've got the mental groups, and we've got the sponsors sorted. We're having a great season and Christmas is rolling around. Oh yes, boys and girls, we know what that means. Youth Intake Day. The initial intake would sometimes contradict itself, as seen here in this picture, a golden generation, but then below on the negatives it shows nothing is good that's coming through. It would be nice to see the pluses and minuses actually aligning up a little bit better. To say there's a real golden generation and then in the negatives to say there's nobody really that great coming through kind of contradicts itself, and it would be good to have that actually sorted out. Screw it. Skates ain't got a clue what they're looking at. We carry on with the league, scraping through January transfer window without losing our stars, when in February, whilst watching the game's key highlight, suddenly, as we have all experienced, VAR or Hawkeye interrupts our key highlight. At low level, it's not widely used, if at all, in the real world, which is generally fine, unless it's televised, an FA Cup semi-final or whatever, and, it's like Wycombe Wanderers or whatever. But even in the real world, we've all seen it in matches on here, the referee runs to the TV and it's a penalty, or it's not, and it's just outside the area. Or even the goal line tech. It's always never a goal when you see this on FM. Further to this, we know that the VAR and the Hawkeye makes mistakes in real life. Yes, this would be hard to identify in a game, but surely a variable in the game engine is like, I don't know, for example, throwing ratios out there, 1 in 15 over a random chance or something to that effect. I'm not really a programmer, so, but you get the general idea, yeah? The Hawkeye is ruled in our favour. It's a goal. This is amazing. The title race is back on and it's running close. It's the last game of the season and it all depends on this game. This match. This is what it comes down to. Oh my God, the unthinkable. You've lost. But the runners-up win. You've still won the league just by goal difference. This is amazing. They needed to score 3 to jump above you. And so long as you didn't concede that more than one with that heavily rotated side, because you know that you've got the Champions League final next week, you were safe. And what's this? The podium of the winners. Winning the titles and the cups is a pretty poor effort on the graphical display of the stage, which is something that I'd expect to see at my daughter's Christmas play. This needs to be done better. The board are amazed. They're happy that you've won everything now. However, it is season 5 in the Premier League, and it turns out that a player that was a 2-star ability on yours that you sold to Bournemouth has been sitting pretty at Chelsea for the last season and is now an amazing superstar. What the hell? A hidden gem attribute, or let's say the Jamie Vardy, Tyrone Mings effect. There's low potential initially, but comes good at a higher level. A way to implement this would be great. Yes, it's rare, we know, but as Vardy and Tyrone Mings have proved, it can happen. So I think this needs to somehow be incorporated into FM21. Anyway, never mind that. You've just won the league. You're an absolute legend, especially in the board's eyes anyway. Now, it's won a lot sooner than expected, and they ask about a stadium move or an upgrade if you're still in your 20-year period of last stadium move. So, bring us on to stadium upgrade then. I'd like to think when upgrading a stadium, being able to name a stand after when you've become an icon or a legend would be a great idea. Also on this, what about being able to talk about what should be expanded? Instead of a large north stand or an east stand, what about building it in that empty corner section where we don't lose revenue and we can continue to build a bigger stadium? Like picking out in this picture and negotiating with the board about getting it underway, which could be another negotiating part whereby if you asked to expand the stadium and they agree, you can then sit down with the board and thrash out a plan about how to best go about it and begin negotiating how big it is in relation to the cost, etc. With the negotiating in comparison to that of signing a player, maybe having like a board's overall personality, maybe showing to give an indication how to approach said negotiations, such as like in a negotiation when you've got a player that you're trying to sign and you've got the agent's personality there. Hopefully there's a picture over me now showing that. So as far as playing the game goes, that's pretty much about it. However, don't leave yet. I have got a few more that I'd like to see an improvement on, and in no particular order, this is going to be a little bit of a list. So there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 more. All right, but we'll just brush over them quickly because it's in no particular order here, okay? So, create a club. This is a great feature. It would be better if we had more customization on it. Building the stadium from the ground up. Yes, if you start at a non-league team and say the game allows you an allocation of 1,000 seats, do you want 500 standing behind a goal and then say 200 seats on each set of the sidelines and maybe 100 behind the goal for the away team? Or do you want it more balanced? You design it, you build it. You then get given a budget to bring in an assistant manager, squad training, facilities, staff, etc. And each piece of the puzzle takes away a chunk of the starting budget to get the club off the ground. A true way to effectively manage on a budget. Even if it means starting this club in the 10th tier or whatever, you can choose where to start and the budget is adjusted to the league that you start in. The AI managers will lose jobs. For example, let's say Pep loses his Man City post, and you can almost guarantee that in around 10 years' time, he will have been back there at some point. Now, whilst this holds true for the likes of Mourinho, it doesn't happen all the time, which is what I see with top level managers in FM20. They will have a merry-go-round and eventually land back at the same clubs as where the game first started. Weird. Please can we have a bit more realism here? Alright then, so this next one, I feel some may feel it is controversial. However, stick around to the last 4 after this, and you'll have to let me know in the comments maybe to what you think of this one. Introduction of women into the game. Yes, I'm a man. Yes, I love the game. Yes, I know I can start as a female, but it would be great for you to coach the women's team of the team that you support. After all, the women's game is taking off slowly, and in some cases, the women's team do better than the men's team. All right then, so the last 4, okay? Around the world screen. It would be nice to have this as customizable as I like, as I see fit. It would be nice to choose who I'd like to see at what glance. So, as a low-level team, I don't need to see, Oceania, Brazil, Argentina. That's no good to me when I'm playing in Vanarama National. I'd like to see maybe League 2, maybe, France League 2, whatever the case may be. There's no point me having Argentina's Premier League there, Social feed is a good idea, but it needs maybe more meat on the bone. The concept is good, but it needs something more to become engaging in the game. I'm pretty sure most of us that play the game just sort of hit continue and glance over that, and we don't really take much of a second glance at it. I'm not really sure what more I can add to this, to be honest. A player's love for the club. If a player loves the club and it's their boyhood club, let's say, for example, the Steven Gerrards out there, the Jack Grealishes out there. I mean, I'd even go as far as Troy Deeney, but, he's playing at Watford. But he loves Birmingham City and he loves to throw it into Villa's face. Things like that. It should be harder for them to be sold from their club that they're playing at if it's their boyhood club. Or they should at least command a higher price because of this. Chances are they are tied to that club through that love of the club, and they're never going to want to leave unless they are literally forced out of the club, or some crazy offer comes in that they don't want to refuse money-wise. Yeah, I don't think I can say much more about that. I think we all know what's happening there. Guys love the club. They don't want to leave, end of. Lastly then, if you've made it this far, absolutely fair play. Match engine. We all know it needs updating. We can keep the 2D as backup or as an option to be able to play it by those that want to use it as a play, because we know that there are people out there that love this sort of retro feel, so to speak, and it could be put down as an option, but seriously, please update the graphics. It's a long time coming, and I won't say more because it is a constant, then it needs updating. I'm pretty sure there's many options out there who want to say what they want to say about that. Well then, if you made it this far, thank you for watching the video. I appreciate taking the time to watch it. I hope that you agree with some of them, and if you don't, I would love to hear which ones you do agree with and which ones you don't agree with down in the comments. And hopefully you stick around to watch some of my FM content. Thank you very much. See you in the next video.